And, I have in the back of my mind, like, the availability I have, the minimum amount that I'm willing to accept per hour. And, I didn't even have to negotiate. Like, they walked in, they're like, this is what we want. This is what we're willing to offer. 40 minutes in, out, contract signed.
That's great.
It was the easiest thing ever.
Oh, that is so great. And that's such an example of taking advantage of opportunities in the present moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I go to those networking events all the time too, because I'm real active in our chamber. And sometimes I just lack the courage to offer my services when I can tell when I'm talking to somebody, they would be perfect for what they do. So you just inspired me when I saw that, and I thought, I'm going to ask her how did she do that? And
I'm normally not that bold to do that, but it just sounded like such an interesting thing. I'm like, who first of all has that job title and introduces themselves as the director of fun? I'm like, all right, why not?
Oh, I want that job. I think that's great. I'm gonna use that too. I've got my little note thing up here. I could be the director of freedom.
There you go.
Just clever ways to introduce yourself. I know on Katarina's thing the other day, we had to come up with a clever way to introduce ourselves. Like be She Rose. She calls it She Rose. And so everybody was coming up with something that but started with the same letter of their name. What did you come up with, Stephanie?
I did not come up with a superhero name. I spent the 2 days racking my brain. I did not come up with one.
I didn't like the one. I mean, somebody came up with one for me in a breakout beat, Terry the Terrific. But to me, there's got to be a better T word than terrific that would fit with, what I do. So, but I thought, those kind of things are catchy and they're fun and they do get people's attention, just like she got yours. Yeah. Yeah. And then the courage to be bold enough to step out and do that and then follow through with action, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So there's so many ways to be courageous and have faith in yourself, building your business or working with your coworkers. Or I know, Tammy, you've been working on your confidence as you go into your meetings. And so you've got 2 meetings today. How are you courageously facing those meetings?
I'm going to be very vocal. And that's one of my big objectives these days, don't hold back. Yeah.
Good.
There's that courage.
Yeah. So practicing that, is that giving you more confidence?
It is. I think, I think we all know that if you don't speak up and I don't share it, it stays in here. And then I regret because I had that opportunity, similar to Stephanie, that you've got these opportunities, which are my meetings. If I don't take advantage of that window of time, or even that thread that gives me, a segue, to transition into something,
share
how I feel, it's gone. Then it eats up on me because I lost it. I lost that opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing that. I'm going to stop the recording because. And this is the Courage Hour on Thursday morning, the 17th of August. So I'd like to continue our conversation around courage. And I was telling Stephanie that after our little bit of time, we spent our couple of minutes before we went to fulfill our intentions, my mind just started thinking of, the director of fun. Well, I could be the director of freedom, and just because they're always asking you to introduce yourself at these mixers and stuff. And I always, I don't have a great elevator speech, they call it, but I can say, I'm the director of freedom. I help people overcome any fear that they're facing in their life. There you go.
That would be a great segue for people to ask you more.
Yeah. So I thought, on purpose, right? that really resonated with me. So I want to thank you for that, Stephanie. But I think even though we have these moments of on purpose, it takes courage to follow up on them, right? I mean, we can think and think and think and think. And if we don't take action, those thoughts don't materialize into creating what we want in our lives. So what do you think about the courage to take action on those I call them intuitive hits, or those opportunities of insights that we get from others and from ourselves? Yeah. What about that? Taking action on those. What keeps us from doing that?
Fear. The fear that
Yeah.
we're making a mistake.
Yeah. The right answer. There's not supposed to be a right answer, but yeah, it's fear. And I don't know, what's your biggest fear, when you stop, when it stops you from taking action?
That I'll be wrong. Just like you had said, that's the right answer. This is the wrong. And how we frame what's wrong is in that moment, maybe it's not the best decision. Disappointing because maybe it'll cause failure, or I'm going to sound stupid, and, what do you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. That resonate with you, Stephanie?
Yeah, a lot of the same, that rejection, the failure, and also, it might be hard. I like things easy, and just that fear that it might be difficult.
Yeah. Courage sometimes comes with ease, and sometimes it's difficult. It takes that extra fortitude, that extra commitment, whatever it is that doesn't just flow with ease. Yeah. In Fearless Living, we do an exercise where we discover what our trigger is for fear. So what is it that triggers that, that fear of moving forward? And we name that, and then we call that our wheel of fear. And my trigger is incompetence. And when you think of incompetence, that's a fear of rejection, a fear of disappointing, a fear of being seen as stupid or silly, and as I learn to live with my fear and take my fear's hand and say, okay, I'm feeling this fear because I may be seen as blah, 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 but let's go down this road together, and I'm not going to let it stop me. Even like last Tuesday night at council, I had to take over for the mayor because he had to recuse himself from something. And still that fear is never, that trigger is never going away. That is my trigger. And I said something kind of silly, and all of a sudden I caught the eye of two of the directors looking at each other. What did I think? They think I'm really, incompetent, that I couldn't, do this role or whatever. And they probably weren't even taught, again, was it true or was I making it up? So I had to pull up that tool and say, and if they do think I'm silly, great. Who cares? So it's knowing that fear is there. You don't know if it's true, and you just do it anyway. And you go on and you say, that's their stuff, not mine. What can I control? So all those tools that we've learned that help us master our fear. Yeah. But incompetence is my trigger. So it's kind of a cool thing to discover what, really be able to name what that fear is and be able to say, okay, what is it about incompetence right now that's making me not have courage? Because I get it in my stomach. I know right away, there it is, and it stops me. And I really don't want it to. So I work hard at it. It's not easy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to the idea that, every day we're practicing. Like it's a new day. That mindset, I have to start with it. And then I do find that it does stick with me. And that is that compassion that I lend myself now and then, like, hey, I haven't done this before, or these are a whole new sets of variables.
Yeah.
I'm learning, this is a journey. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you sound like a fearless living coach.
I had a few good ones.
But because one of the three foundational principles, Stephanie, can you say them with me? Compassion, honesty, and personal responsibility. There we go. And that's compassion for us. for ourselves. Yeah. And that's my essential nature, which is my will of freedom. So incompetence gets me spinning around in my fear. Compassion takes me into my freedom. So those are my two wheels. So that helps me a lot to just understand that about myself, Yeah. Well, our time is up. We're ready to start the next hour. If you're going to stay on, we'll go around and celebrate, have a celebration. You got to go.
So good to see you. Have a good day.
You too. So what can we celebrate this hour, Stephanie?
I am going to celebrate. I'm going to celebrate a new client.
Yay. So we've been talking about courage, and this is the Courage Hour, the second Courage Hour for Thursday, August the 17th. And we were just talking about courage to take action when we have those intuitive hits of things that we can do that would propel us forward, and what stops us from doing that. And we determined it was fear. And so we were just talking about the things how can we name those fears, and then what can we do with those fears so that we move forward anyway. So I was sharing my wheel of fear, my wheel of freedom, which I know you're getting ready to do with Kelly. And my trigger for my wheel of fear is incompetence. And so what I do when I get triggered to be fearful, I just practice self-destructive behaviors, and I just keep staying on that, with my thoughts and my actions. And to break that, I can go to my essential nature, which is my will of freedom, and that's compassion for me. And so that's my way to get out of fear into freedom, is to apply compassion. And what are those proactive behaviors I can access in order to break that wheel of fear and get onto my wheel of freedom? So when you are triggered and fear comes up and you start to make up stories and see things that aren't true, like, oh, those people they're talking about me. What did I do wrong? Just making up those stories. What are some of your proactive behaviors that you can get out of the fear and get into freedom, which means moving forward with confidence and control over your reactions? Long question.
I just thought of the the simple question of, are you making up? Is it true? Which you taught us is the first thing that I think of. And what's interesting about the wheels is that some of the work that I've done with Nancy to reveal my gem, there's a tip top of the gem that mine says insignificance. So it's really interesting. I'm excited to go through the process with Kelly for my wheels to see if that is in fact what comes up in the process, because she said that's one of them. And I was like,
oh. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so, hers is invisible, which, she's done all of her work to be visible, and then to teach other people to be visible as well. So I was just listening to some scriptures, that God gives you weaknesses, and then your weaknesses become your strengths. And, and that's kind of what I've watched Kelly do, that in her morphine, her whole metamorphosis, that she's come out of that, holding back, and now stepping up and being bold. Yeah. So it's interesting, really interesting, when you can kind of analyze, what is it that's triggering me, and what can I do to negate that, and asking yourself if it's true or I'm making up is one of the most powerful things to do. Yeah.
And I think, like, thinking about when other people or situations are triggering us, right? Like, to get to that point of knowing what it is, that's why it's important, because we'll start to recognize it more. We build more awareness around it when we know, we're not doing what we just said we were going to do, because now we're on that different path. We're on that wheel that we can start to recognize and see. And that's why I talk about fear as my friend, because we start to know people more. They become our friends. Like, we know more things the more we recognize patterns and all of those things in our friends. It's becoming friends with our fear to know it's it's letting us know something, and it's for a reason. And first of all, it's for growth. It's always an opportunity for growth, which is super important. But yeah, I think that awareness piece is huge.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to give you a little quote that I got from a talk video. In fact, I'll send this video to you guys. It's called 5 Chairs. It's a TED Talk. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I'm going to send it to you because it was so impactful. A friend sent it to me that I'm doing a forgiveness group with. But
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln said, because when you're in the highest chair in the hierarchy, that's where you have empathy and compassion and understanding, which are all freedom, related concepts. And Abraham Lincoln said, I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. Doesn't that fit what you just said?
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's written in my journal so I could find it right away.
I love it. Proactive behavior right there. Write it down so you can go back to something that sits well with you. I would love to listen to that TED Talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat while we go to do our intention so that you guys can access it, because it's, TED Talks are only half an hour, which is what I love about them. And this one is so impactful, just so impactful. I mean, I'm going to write to the lady and ask her if I can use the concept, when I give talks, as long as you give them credit, they usually are fine with that. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Go. Do your
Hey,
intention.
I want to point out that that's a courageous act, even saying that you want to do that. Reach out to ask for that permission. That's an amazing, courageous act.
Oh, thank you.
Reaction.
Courage, because I wanted to tell you something else that I did. I used to do the leadership Tulare facilitation. I mean, every chamber has that leadership program.
Yep.
And they went to, well, when I ran for council, I couldn't do it anymore because they said it was a conflict of interest. Because the city gives the chamber money.
Oh.
But I've talked to other chambers, they don't think so. But I mean, that's the way it is. So that's it. Can't control that. So a friend of mine, Vicky Gatke, from she is real involved with the chamber in Dinuba, which is a city that's about 30 miles from here. And they lost their facilitator. And he was Eddie Valero, a supervisor. So there you go. There's a municipal government person that's their job. I mean, that's their job. They get paid for it. I don't get paid for city council. And he was doing it. So she asked me to apply for their facilitator position for their leadership to Larry. So I did. And today I have the interview with them to sign the contract.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sign the contract until I know, exactly what they expect, because chambers can be real finicky, and I'm not going to get myself in a position where the leadership of the chamber tries to micromanage me. I don't like that. So if that's the case, I won't accept the position,
Yes, living in a variety of different communities, I have definitely seen the gamut of chamber leadership.
Yeah.
We are blessed with a very good one here.
Yeah. We have a good board in Tulare. There's a couple of people on there that when I was doing leadership before, they got in there too much. And so I was kind of glad that I could step out without having to quit or anything. So those are the questions I will ask this, what do they call it, steering committee for the leadership program, how much they're going to be involved and how much freedom I'm going to have, So that's my big question to ask them. But anyway, it took a lot of courage to go ahead and do that. So I did it. Hi, Becky. Welcome back. How did you do with your intention?
I did well. I'm ready to go and feeling good. And I love hearing that you thought about the questions to ask to fill your need in order to say yes to something that's in alignment with what you're willing to give. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, that's a new thing for me.
Hey,
Because of I'm trying to work on that abundance mindset, right? So the money's good. I mean, the money's very good. 3 times more than I got paid in Tulare. And but I'm not thinking about that. I mean, sort of I am, but
It's a
I'm trying to
factor.
think about, is it going to feed my soul? Is it going to give me that opportunity to make new connections with a whole nother city, right? And learn about their municipal government, their education system, all those things you learn about in leadership, and give me out of my comfort zone, because I won't know any of these people. All the people in Tulare that have been in my leadership program for the last 5 years, I knew them, they lived in my community. So I'm excited about that part of it. So the money, really, I set the money aside. And that is also, I think, progress, for me, to not put the money as I'll do whatever I have to do to get the money.
Yeah, I like that it's a factor in making choices all the time. It's a part of the equation to what we say yes to and what we say no to and what's best for us. So of course that is there, but I love that that's not the focus.
Yeah. Because when they told me how much they paid, I was like, I kind of had to not show my excitement. Because it's only a day and a half a month. That's the time commitment. So it's not a huge time commitment. But again, if it's not in alignment, that time will be hell, for me and for the participants. So I don't want to put myself or them in that kind of a situation, because when I get micromanaged, I'm not real friendly. If you're going to hire me to do leadership, let me lead.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. We want that freedom, and we lead better when we can do it in our own flow. There's boundaries, and there's also having the freedom in that.
Yeah, I mean, the program itself is tight. I mean, it's the same for every chamber in the country. So the boundaries are clear, but there's nothing that says you have to do it this way. These are the days that you want to have. They do a project, they do a fundraiser, they do, those things are a given. But how I lead them through that process and build their confidence should be up to me. So that's what I'm going to say.
Hey,
something like that. I'm the director of freedom.
Freedom fighter.
Stephanie shared with us, tell her what you did, because I think that's so courageous what you did. And she didn't hear it. You talked to the director of fun.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So we have a chamber networking event. And so the director of fun from a local resort, that is literally her title.
I like
had introduced herself. And so I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. So I gave her my card and just said, these are all the things I could do. And, it'd be nice to, give a class or something. She's like, we totally do things like that at the resort. Let me talk to the general manager. So general manager emails me, says, hey, let's set up a meeting and talk. And so I had in my mind, okay, I'm not going on somebody's payroll. I'm going to be an independent contractor. This is the minimum I'd have to make. And this is my availability when I'd be willing to come in. They literally, this is, few minute conversation. This is what they offered. Like in and out, 40 minutes, contract signed and all. Like,
Yeah.
boom, here we go.
Isn't that great?
So now I'm
Great.
teaching
Awesome.
water aerobics for the guests.
Yeah, and I love that director of finance. So I told her,
Best
'cause
job
I
in the
don't-
world.
I don't have a really good elevator talk. I mean, I've worked on it with business coaches and I just can't come up with it. So I said, I'm going to introduce myself as the director of freedom, and I help people face their fears so they can live their life in freedom.
Boom. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I love your example of knowing what you're willing to give, setting the boundaries, being clear about what you're willing to commit to. And if it's a right fit, then awesome, let's go. And if it's
Yeah.
not, then that's fine. It's not it. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So I just thought that was great. Our hour is up. So I don't think anybody has an hour after this. So we will sign off, and I'll see you all again soon.
Bye, ladies.